The National Football League has no offseason, and it's never too early to start thinking about your fantasy team. Tonight, we hop in the Dynasty streets and we do our 2025 NFL Dynasty quarterback rankings. Welcome, football fans, to another edition of IDP Plus. What is up, folks? I am one of your hosts here, the DGen Doc, and more importantly, I am joined by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Derek Bennett, aka Professor Locks. How we doing tonight, brother?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I'm repping the Iron City shirt tonight, and my Steelers took a little bit of a hit, sort of, kind of, in the last couple of days.
Yes, we are jumping right into it. Pittsburgh Steelers, just traded to the Dallas Cowgirls, Mr. George Pickens. Now, Mike Tomlin has a pretty good track record of knowing when to get rid of a receiver. How do you feel as a Steelers fan? Instant reaction. Are you happy? Are you kind of like, what's going on, or where are we at with it?
Yeah, as soon as I saw Schefter's post yesterday morning, I was like, "What the fuck? What? Why are we doing this? We've been looking for a second wide receiver for like the last 2-3 years, and you finally get one, DK Metcalf. You just traded away second round pick for DK. So now you got two of the best deep threats in terms of wide receivers in the
Yeah.
league, and now it's like back to square one again. Basically, have the exact same offenses they have had for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
So I questioned it originally, but after I started thinking about it, it's like, okay, GP is still on his rookie deal. This is his last season on his rookie deal, and then they're gonna have to pay him. They just paid DK $30 million. Their defense is the highest paid defense in the league as is. They're not going to want to pay GP the kind of money that he's going to want, because we kind of know George Pickens is a pretty good wide receiver, but he's also a pretty big diva.
He's a really good diva.
And likes to show that, and that's part of the reason why he dropped in the second round. 3 or 4 years ago in the draft, anyways. So it's like one of those things. Like 2025, I would have loved to see him and DK Metcalf on the field at the same time. It would have been a 1-year thing in the biggest reality, and they got a third round pick for him. The draft's going to be in Pittsburgh next year. I think they have like 12 picks now for in next year's draft in Pittsburgh. So they have some draft capital to hopefully move up and get his replacement, or finally potentially get a long-term solution at quarterback. We'll see.
Yeah. No, I think, it's a good synopsis there of long term could be the right move. Short term, it does suck. Going into next season, the quarterback room and wide receiver room, arguably, the two most important in the passing NFL we have today. Big question marks. So hopefully, Roman Wilson, their pick from last year, and maybe Calvin Austin.
And that's one other thing too. Like, I'm glad you brought Roman Wilson up, because he played in 2 games last year, and when he did, he played like 20 snaps.
Yeah.
So
hurt all year.
They must think pretty highly of him.
Yeah.
Because I think I texted you, like, Calvin Austin right now is their number 2. He was their number 2 last year. He's not a number 3 on half the rosters throughout the league.
You hate Calvin Austin. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
not a Calvin Austin guy, as you are aware. But hopefully they have some idea what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, you want to trust Tomlin, but the offense has been a little tough. But enough Steelers talk here. Let's go ahead and give the people what they came for, and that is our 2025 Fantasy Dynasty rankings for none other than the quarterbacks, the field generals, the most important position on the field, and one of the most important positions on your team. And we are going to be talking Dynasty. So really biggest difference between Dynasty and Redraft. We did this as kind of our series here. We did the tight ends last week. Definitely check that out. We'll be doing the quarterbacks, and then we'll get to the wide receivers and the running backs. If you are an IDP, you're on IDP Plus. You're probably in IDP League. We got our boys Axon and Johnny working on D-line, defensive back, linebacker, so check that out as well. But look, Dynasty, biggest thing, it's a keeper league. So you're looking try to 3 to 5 years. Career longevity matters here as opposed to just next season. I think we talked about it on the last show, but projecting more than 5 years is pretty tough. So we're pretty much doing 3 to 5 year projections. I think that's kind of a good way to have a base there. We're going to go top 20 today, and we are going to go from 4 tiers from 20 all the way to number 1, the big reveal, who's our number 1 quarterback. These are consensus, so Derek and I had to, although not always agree, come to a compromise like good marriage would, you know.
That's
We've learned a couple of things from our spouses, but
right.
we will be doing a 20 there. We're also going to talk about some guys who just missed the cut. Actually, let's talk about it right now.
Yeah.
Who's a guy for you that is not going to be on our list that you think either could be or you can make an argument for?
So, I really don't enjoy doing this because I'm when he came into the league, I wasn't a fan. He hasn't even taken a snap in this league. But
Mm-hmm.
JJ McCarthy just kind of keeps like in the back of my mind, like the weapons that he has, the offensive line in Minnesota, and obviously you have Kevin O'Connell there
Yep.
as well. He's been the quarterback whisperer over the last couple of years. I mean,
Yep.
you got Jetta up there, you got Jordan Addison, you got Hawkinson, you got Aaron Jones in the
Yep.
backfield. Like he has the weapons there, and he is a dual threat guy. I mean, he's not the most mobile guy, but
Yeah.
he will take off and he can run the ball. But he's coming off a pretty big leg injury.
Yeah. Meniscus repair there.
Exactly. So it's like, is he still going to run? What is he going to look like, after a
Yeah.
year without football? So it's one of those things that like ceiling can be pretty high, but the floor could be like he's out of the league in 2 or 3 years too.
Yeah.
So
I know. I was as he was off my board here, and then you kind of brought him up. And as an Ohio State guy, I know that must have been hard for you.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I just think the last time I saw JJ McCarthy throw passes, which was in the national championship game,
yeah,
I thought there was no way he was going to go pro. I thought he was not ready. He just was not making a lot of the NFL level throws. He had one of the best offensive lines, probably the best backfield, really good defense. Like they didn't ask him to do a lot,
sure,
right? So I've got my concerns there, and he just took an entire year off of football. Obviously
yep.
involuntarily, but generally you don't get better playing football by not playing football. So that's why we ultimately left him off the list. But yeah, definitely someone who is vying for a spot there at spot 20. In that last tier there.
Yep.
Someone that I was high on, that I got vetoed out and compromised out there was
See, hey,
my.
wait, one of us was very biased towards our own liking. One of us was going, against a former enemy.
We'll let you decide which is which, but yes, Jackson Dart, my future franchise quarterback. Derek did not think he was up to par. He did not meet the snuff there. 22-year-old kid. My thing is, he got better every year in college. Lane Kiffin offense. He was able to progress through there. He's Dable's guy. I think, Brian Dable, what he was able to do with Josh Allen. I don't think it's going to be apples to apples, but I do think, not next season, but I do think in 2026, as we start to think about, Dynasty and kind of for years on, I think he could be the guy. He's got a number 1 wide receiver, one of the best in the league, Malik Neighbors. But I can see it. I mean, I think it's a little bit of my optimism and kind of projections for what the Giants could be. But ultimately, Derek kind of put some reality into my offseason hopes. So Jackson Dart will not be on this list. But
Check back in our 2028 Dynasty rankings, and maybe he
I
might be
hope,
on the
man.
list.
I hope he's still in the league in 2028. Because if not, it's gonna be very, very rough. But hopefully, if
Fair
not, we
enough.
have Arch, and that's all that matters. But all right, let's get into this. Let's go tier number 4 here. This is our call your shot tier. So we've got coming in at number 20, Geno Smith, 19, Cam Ward, question mark. Obviously, a little bit of some debate there. Dak Prescott, Justin Fields, and Jordan Love. Yeah, this is kind of the tier where you're taking it a little bit of a dart throw.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a very clear answer in this tier. This is definitely some projection out. We're not going to talk about all of these guys. We're going to single in on two of them, and we're going to start with the guy with the question mark, and that's Cam Ward, the number one overall pick this year to the Tennessee Titans. Why don't you kick it off? 23-year-old. He's, fans in Nashville are hoping he's going to be the guy
Yeah.
for them for many years to come. What can they expect? What are you expecting out of Cam Ward in the next couple of seasons here?
Yeah, I mean, Kim Ward in college was definitely a playmaker. He definitely um, spread the ball around, especially. I mean, once he got down to Miami, I think he threw for over 4,000 yards,
Yeah.
almost 40 touchdowns. He is one of those gunslingers, though, that he will throw the ball into some situations like, what the hell are you thinking?
Yep.
And when it comes to the Titans, like, I mean, their offensive weapons just are not very good, in
A
my
bit
opinion.
older.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're getting up in there in age, and they didn't really help themselves out a ton in the draft. If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember exactly how their draft went, but
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that, like, how is he going to adapt to the NFL rather than being in college? I mean, the last couple of years we had CJ Stroud and we had Jaden Daniels light it up
Yeah.
coming into their rookie year. Is that trend gonna continue? I don't know. Obviously, time will tell, but history tells us that rookies have a tough time outside of those two guys the last couple of years. So
Yeah.
he could be pretty good, 3-4 years down the line. The next year or two, eh,
Could be
it,
rough.
it, it could be very rough. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's why we're a little bit lower than market value here on him. But I also think, people are going to assume there's a bit of a rushing floor. He's not really a big runner. It's
No.
not really his thing. It's not really what he does best. He is, someone who definitely is going to sling the rock and kind of distribute that ball around. But you're right. He's going to definitely have some turnover issues there. Titans wide receiver core right now, Tyler Lockett, Treylon Burks, and Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
A lot of guys that used to be pretty good, and Treylon Burks never was good. So we'll see, if some of the rookies, Restrepo and DK, Chimere and DK from the my Florida Gator guy there. We'll
Yeah,
see if they can crack it.
Restrepo is another interesting rookie coming in
Yeah,
because him and Ward had a big time connection. I mean, I think has the record for most receptions at Miami, which, I mean,
yeah.
Miami's produced a lot of NFL talent, but I think he ran like a 4.8 or
Yeah,
something
he's
like that.
undrafted. I mean,
Yeah,
Cam Ward obviously made a call and said, "Hey, let's pick this guy up." But
right.
I mean, he was his top target, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, I think Cam Ward, he's got potential to be a good quarterback. Goes into a pretty tough situation there. Not a lot
No
of
doubt.
weapons. I think he can have a decent year, but I think the turnovers are going to get him a little bit these first couple years, and maybe this is someone you can look to get some value on. Coming into the 2026 season or 2027 season.
Yep.
But I think the next 2 years it's projecting to be a little bit rough here. So he does make the list, but he is 19 for us there. All
Yep.
right, let's talk about your old quarterback, Justin Fields. Now,
Yeah.
this is the project of all projects, the shot of all shots here.
Yeah.
What are we thinking with Justin Fields? I know we've got a little bit different opinion, so why don't you give yours on what are we expecting from Justin Fields?
Yeah. I mean, fantasy wise, Justin Fields is one of those guys that I love having on my roster because he is a running threat at all times. I think he started 6 games with the Steelers last year and then obviously got benched for Russ, but in those 6 games, I think he had 4 rushing touchdowns. He had another one later in the season.
Yeah.
Um, he had them playing pretty well. I think he was 4-2 in his 6 starts. Obviously, down the stretch, Russ took over and the rest is history. But the thing with Justin Fields is being with the Jets, I don't know if it's necessarily going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't, will he get another starting job? Right? I mean, he's had plenty of opportunities with Chicago last year with the Steelers. Couldn't quite get the hang of that starting role. This is his 3rd team, and I don't know if a 4th team's necessarily going to give him that option, right? So when we're talking dynasty, he might be a good option this year, maybe next year, but
Yeah.
long term, I don't know if he's going to be around.
Yeah, no, I think this play is definitely the one with the highest variance, the highest variability. I mean, there's a decent shot. Like, there's just as good of a spot that he's like still a quality starter in the NFL in 3 years as
Yeah,
there is that he's out
yeah,
of the NFL completely.
yeah. I mean,
So,
he could bump up to top 6, top 8
yeah,
really really quickly because of the running threat that he is. But
yeah, and we saw it. I mean, he definitely finds the end zone. He's got his nose for the end zone there.
Mhm.
I was particularly high on what the Jets did. You know, they were one of my draft winners. If we go back to that episode,
Yeah,
they got Memboon out of Missouri. They got up. They shored up the offensive line. They got the Mason Taylor, the tight end, out of LSU. They've
yep,
got a wide receiver one in Garrett Wilson. You've got Brees Hall out of the backfield. I think when he's had some success. He's had a wide receiver one, a tight end, and a decent run game that they could run some RPO and stuff like that. I think this is the best offensive line he's going to play behind. So I'm a little bit more optimistic, but I think, your dose of reality is definitely needed because this is definitely not a lock, not a guaranteed anyway. It's a
yeah,
Justin Fields experiment. I'm willing to gamble on it, but, not anything crazy high, right? It's got to be something pretty low there. But that's why he's a little bit higher than market in our rankings than
yep,
you might see out there with those wannabes and has-beens out there. All right. So we are going to continue on with our tiers. But before we do that, I got to tell you about some of the awesome sponsors we got here at IDP Plus. Starting off with Fast Draft Fantasy. That's right, Fast Draft Fantasy. We're talking fantasy right now. Now, if you're, Dynasty, take some patience. You got to project and things like that. If you're more of a, hey, I want this right now, I want to be knowing who I'm drafting, I want my team selected in under 10 minutes, then Fast Draft Fantasy is for you. Start drafting faster today. 20 seconds per pick. All drafts less than 10 minutes. And to sweeten the deal for you, we're going to get you $50 for free. Use promo code plus DGenDoc and get a $50 deposit match. All you got to do, deposit $50, use promo code plus DGenDoc, and boom, we're getting you a free $50. Also want to tell you about some of the things we got going on over here on idpplus.com. We are talking football 365, 24/7. You're going to want to check out the site for all our subscriptions. We got some content that is only for our subscribers, as well as the subscribers only Discord. So want to get in there and join the IDP family. And then
mhm.
best part about the off season is the Fantasy Football Expo. So get your tickets at thefantasyfootballexpo.com today. All right, we are rolling into tier number 3. We are going to be calling this tier the game manager tier. And that is going to start with Mr. Kyler Murray. Then we're going to CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, Drake May, Patrick Mahomes. A very interesting tier of guys here. I think
Yeah,
most tiers, we're going to talk about one or two guys a little bit more in depth. This one, I think we're going to spray the board a little bit and, just kind of bounce around and give a couple
yeah,
quick thoughts. So why don't you pick out a couple guys from this tier and kind of give us your thoughts?
yeah. So let me start with a guy that I was a little bit higher on, and um, again, we compromised a little bit, but CJ Stroud, I talked about him just a little bit ago, and how he absolutely lit up his rookie season. Last season definitely took a step back, but I think a lot of that was just due to injuries around him. His offensive line was beat up most of the year. Obviously, he lost two of his top 3 wide receivers coming into the league or into the season with uh, completely just
Stephon
flashed away.
Diggs and Nico Collins tanked out.
Yeah, all 3 of them at times were injured
Yep.
throughout the season. So was it necessarily CJ Stroud stepping back, or was it everything around him kind of getting beat up and just not necessarily around him? But I mean, throughout our list, besides, well, no, yeah, he's one
Well,
of the yeah, he's going into the season, week 1, he's 23 years old. He's younger than basically all of the quarterbacks that were drafted this year outside of Jackson Dart.
Yep.
He's still younger than Jaden Daniels. He's still younger than Drake May. I mean, he's a young quarterback that I think has some promise there. I think it's one of those
Yeah.
things that he's got the talent. Let's just see if the rest of his team will stay healthy. And we mentioned this before we jumped on. If we were doing this a year ago, he would have been a top 5 guy.
Yeah.
So he was still in my top 10. Like we said, we did a little bit of compromising. You
Hmm.
put a little bit of um, negativity in my brain with CJ Stroud, bumped him down to 14. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I think, the two biggest things that hindered CJ Stroud last year were offensive line and questionable, wide receiver health. And I think coming into this year, you still have it. I mean, you got
yep,
rid of Jeremy Tunzel. I think there's still major question marks on their offensive line. The decline from last year scared me a little bit with a defensive coach and D'Amico Ryans and Tank Dell. I mean, there's a good chance he doesn't play the
yeah,
entire season next year.
for sure.
He's already been in the league 2 years and had 2 season-ending injuries. Obviously, no Stephon Diggs. I know they got the rookie Higgins at Iowa State there.
Yeah,
But, I just think that there's still some concerns. And I think that, was it just a sophomore slump? I think there's a real chance that he can continue to struggle a little bit because of those pieces around him.
yep,
They're really working that defense pretty well in Houston, building that up. But that offense, I still have a lot of questions about. So,
for sure.
yeah, the guy I want to talk about here is Drake May. Another young guy, another 23-year-old. I think that he definitely showed some flashes last year. I mean, he played 13 games, only 2,276 yards, 15 touchdowns, 10 receptions, but he's got a rushing.
Yeah,
And I think most people would say he runs well for a white guy. I'm just going to say he runs well. He had 421 rush yards and 2 rushing touchdowns in just 13 games. He's pretty fluid in his rushing ability. I think he's a real actual rushing threat.
yeah,
And I think they've got some pieces around him now. They're building him up. I mean, we'll see. We talked about the Stephon Diggs coming in. Check out that video on what to
yep,
expect from Stephon Diggs coming off his ACL tear. They do have some question marks there, and they still will continue to build, but they seem like they're willing to build around Drake May. And I really think he could be a pretty special talent here. I
yeah.
think he's going to have a pretty solid year next year.
Yeah, and
All
and
right.
really the other 3 guys on our list, like, all 3 of these guys are veterans,
Yep.
but at the same time, I mean, Kyler, let's see how much longer he is the guy, especially with using his legs, because he
Hmm.
can throw the rock, but the reason why he's been a fantasy guy is because he's a scrambler and he will find the end zone. Brock
Yep.
Purdy, he had a horrible luck last year, and you trade away Deebo Samuel. Ayuk probably won't play for the first 6-8 weeks, most
Hmm.
likely, and then you got Patrick Mahomes that had a hell of a start to his career. The last couple of years have been okay, definitely not up to his standard his first few years, but Travis Kelsey is only going to be around for another year, maybe 2, in
Yep.
in reality. So where's he going to be in 3-4 years? Obviously, he's probably still going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but fantasy wise, is he still going to be lighting it up?
Yeah, no, I think you did a really good job talking about that. Yeah, but the Mahomes with the Kelsey concerns, and they're pretty much almost being led by their defense. Purdy, who's going to be healthy around him? He is still a 7th round pick. How much are they going to willing to go all in? And then
Yeah.
Kyler, I mean, the rushing floor is there, but so is the injury risk, and so is I mean, if you talk to some Arizona Cardinal fans, the one or two you find hiding under a rock, they're a little bit fed up with Kyler. And I know someone who was betting on him, and they kind of brought me in, and then they kept he kept letting us down, right? So
Yeah.
Kyler's a bit frustrating. So we'll see how long that project continues. So, all right, let's move on to tier number 2 here. This is our Ole Reliable tour. All reliable tier, not necessarily just older guys, but more so, hey, look, this is guys you can start and can kind of have some confidence in here. Justin Herbert coming in at 10, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Bo Nix, and Caleb Williams,
Ooh.
the old number 1, pick from last season. But we're gonna start with our guy Baker, shake and bake, Baker Mayfield. Absolute dog. I mean, we were talking about behind the curtain. Baker was all the way up to 6 for me, but I think 8 is probably where he should be. Let's talk about the pros first, right? So he threw for 4,500 yards, 41 passing touchdowns, 378 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. And he threw for 4,000 yards last year and 28 touchdowns. A little bit less on the rushing there. But, I think Baker Mayfield is an absolute gamer. He will use his legs when he needs to.
Yep.
He's got 4 stud wide receivers, with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Buka, and Jalen McMillan. And you keep hearing everybody say, oh, well, it was just a Dave Canales thing. Oh, well, it's just a Liam Cohen thing. Well, he's had 2 really, really good years, both fantasy and real life football, back-to-back years. I think it's just a Baker thing. But why don't you tell us about the valid concerns you have regarding Baker as a dynasty quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, Baker's going into his age 30 season. So he is probably one of the older quarterbacks on our list here. And yes, he does have 4 absolute stud wide receivers, but there's one of those that stands above all of them, like literally. He's like 6'7". Mike Evans, and Mike Evans is also an older wide receiver.
Yep.
He's not one of those guys that necessarily uses his speed and things to get open. It's his height and his ability to jump. But at the same time, like Mike Evans is 30, 31 as well. So usually we'll see wide receivers drop off before a quarterback. So I'll be interested to see, after the next couple of years, what Mike Evans really looks like. And you kind of mentioned it. He's had 2 offensive coordinators the last couple of years. Is it a Baker thing? It's starting to seem that way.
Yeah.
But sooner rather than later, like something's not going to mesh offensively with what you're wanting to do as a quarterback and what your OC's wanting to do. So hopefully for the Bucks, it continues to work out. But I have some questions.
Yeah. No, I think those are absolutely fair. All right. Why don't you talk about one of the guys from this tier?
Yeah, let's jump all the way up to number 6 with Caleb Williams. Didn't have the best rookie season. Kind of was overshown by Jaden Daniels, obviously. But the Bears just keep adding to the offensive side of the ball. Last year they brought in Rome Odunze. They still have DJ Moore there. This year they add Colston Loveland. They still have Komet. Rushing wise, the run game isn't great, but Caleb Williams is one of those guys that will use his legs as well. He's kind of just one of those kind of squirrely guys that he just makes things happen. So he will take off and run. Didn't score a ton last year, if I'm not, he didn't get any rushing touchdowns, which is kind of surprising, rushing almost 500 yards.
Yep.
But I think it's just up and up. You got Ben Johnson coming in as their new head coach. We know what he did in Detroit as their offensive coordinator. So you got an offensive-minded guy with a young quarterback, a lot of young weapons. And I just think that Caleb Williams' ceiling is really, really high. And his floor, I think we probably saw his floor last year. I don't think, he's going to get much worse than what he had last year.
No, I think, you hit the nail on the head. I think Caleb Williams is the guy that simply has the most potential to move up, right? Again, he was kind of outside. He wasn't a great fantasy quarterback last year, as I'm sure those of you who had him know. But I think he has the potential to be an absolute stud. That offensive line, Ben Johnson, you got Luther Burton, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore. You got 2 tight ends in Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland. Like, he's got the potential is there, right? And we saw it when he was at USC and he had guys like Jordan Addison, and he can absolutely put on a show. So I think it's a time to kind of buy in on Caleb Williams as opposed to really kind of being scared off of his rookie season.
Agreed.
All right, big reveal time. It is time for tier number 1. These are our league winners, and very similar to tight ends. It's not that exciting, unfortunately, because it's the 5 best fantasy quarterbacks that you probably already know. Joe Burrow coming at number 5, Jalen Hurts at number 4, Jaden Daniels, coming off his sensational rookie season there. Probably a lot of plays away in that game, but 1 game away from a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Probably not the most exciting tier, so we're not going to spend a ton of time talking about it because it's a lot of the guys that But I will say, look, Lamar or Josh Allen, I think 1A, 1B. If you told me I had Lamar 1, I think that's perfectly acceptable. If you
Yep.
told me, as long as they're your 1 and 2, I don't think you can go wrong there.
Yep.
So they're literally really splitting hairs. They both are very similar in what they do. So if you want to tell me that, hey, wait, you want to get away from the weather with Josh, sure, but I would probably tell you that it's just going to make it more likely he runs through a motherfucker's face
Yeah. No
in the
doubt.
cold weather there.
No
But
doubt.
hey, so let's talk about some other guys here. I'll kick us off with talking about Mr. I'll do Jaden Daniels. I'll let you get your guy
Oh.
Joey B down there. So Jaden Daniels, look, it's just the guy, 24 years old. You're right. A little 1 year older than Stroud. At least this will be we do our ages based off week 1. I can't remember if we said that this
Mm-hmm.
episode. But 35, a little over 3,500 passing yards, 25 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 891 rushing yards, and 6 rushing touchdowns. He's an absolute stud. I think Kingsbury's actually fits him very well. They now brought in Deebo Samuel. I mean, the potential. I mean, he has the potential to be like a league MVP in the next 3 to 5 years.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's just got so much potential. I would have liked to seen Washington. They did take an offensive lineman in the first round pick, so it's nice to see that. So I want to see them continue to build up their offensive line there with some question marks, especially with Cosme being out for but he tore his ACL very late in the playoffs, so he's
Very
probably
late.
out most of the year.
Yep.
But Shane Downs is just electrifying. I mean,
Yep.
he can make all the throws. He can get out of any situation. He's willing to use his legs. But as we saw in college, there was a huge amount of people talking about, I'm going to fade Jane Daniels because he's a skinny guy and he's going to get hurt. I've talked about this in last offseason, but there's just players that know how to protect themselves, regardless of their weight. Look at Anthony Richardson. The dude
Yep.
is built like a Mack truck. And he
Yep.
can't stay on the field because he hasn't been able to stay on the field ever since high school. He's had that injury concerns. He plays with reckless abandonment.
Yep.
Jay Daniels uses his legs, but uses them very smart. And he's, I love that about him, how he's clever. I don't like him as a division rival, but as a quarterback, especially as a dynasty quarterback, I am very much in on Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, and I think we've already compared him to CJ Stroud, or at least I did earlier. And I think the biggest difference between the two, like if he's going to have one of those sophomore slumps, I don't know if we're necessarily going to see that in the fantasy realm, right?
Yeah.
Just because of the way that he uses his legs, he's still going to rack up points, or fantasy points, with rushing yards and a few touchdowns thrown in there too. So I don't necessarily think we're going to see the drop off that we saw with CJ Stroud, just because CJ Stroud is a prototypical pocket passer, and Jaden Daniels is one of those more elusive guys.
Yeah.
But let me jump up to my guy Joey B. Joe Burrow, and this is where, kind of like you said, we both had 1, 2, and 3 the exact same. We've switched Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow, but I think 4 or 5 either way, it's where he really deserves to be. And part of that's just because, they just signed 2 absolute stallion wide receivers in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. He's going to have both of those guys for the next 4 years. So Joe Burrow, yes, he had an absolute monster year last year, throwing for almost 5,000 yards, 43 touchdowns, and then he had a couple rushing touchdowns, one of which happened against your New York Football Giants for 50-some yards.
Play. Yeah.
But Joe Burrow, if he's on the field, your team has a chance to win because he's going to throw for 400 yards and make it happen. If so, and especially with that Cincinnati team as a whole, like they're going to need him to, because they still haven't signed Trey Hendrickson on the defensive side of the ball. He had to do this multiple times last year, against Baltimore, against Pittsburgh. He'd throw for 450 yards and still lose a game.
Yep.
That doesn't matter in fantasy. He threw for 450 yards. He loaded up on the stat sheet. So Joe Burrow definitely deserves to be in that top 5 for many, many reasons.
Yeah. 2 quick things that have really nothing to do with what we're talking about. But one, I like your use of the word stallions there. You don't hear that much as
coming off the Derby. I had to throw
coming off the Derby.
Coming
off the Derby, which I was able to hit Sovereignty 9-1, baby. I had a nice little Derby day. But also, made me think of the Birmingham Stallions. I thought we were talking a little UFL action real quick, which if you're into the United Football League, first of all, you should get into it. And second of all, check out on the bets channel. I give out my game breakdowns and best bets. We are around plus 10 units on the season so far. We are in the positive. So join the show. And then also, looking at Joe Burrow, he had rushed for 201 rushing yards. Basically a quarter of that came in one play against my Giants. Yep. That game sucked. But anyway, Joey B, he's got the best 2 wide receivers in the league. He's one of the best quarterbacks. I think this is just he's always going to be liable to lead the league in passing yards or passing touchdowns for the next 5 years. So I think this is an easy one. Even if the rushing floor isn't really there, I don't know. He's one of those few guys that he can just make up for it with his arm. Absolutely. All right, brother, we did it. We ranked our top 20 Dynasty NFL quarterbacks here. Got anything for the good people before we let them go?
I don't think so. We're past the draft at this point. We got rookie mini camps going on.
Yep.
The NFL is still out there. And I believe it is May 8th while we're recording this. And I just can't wait for September 8th.
September 8th will be fun. Yes.
I don't know if September 8th is actually.
No, definitely not. It's September 4th is the first game. So Thursday, Friday, September 7th probably, but you're close.
7th, 8th, something like that.
Maybe Monday Night Football is a really good matchup. We'll see. Hey folks, look, we did tight ends last week. We just did quarterbacks. That means wide receivers and running backs are on the horizon. So look out for that next week for your dynasty rankings there. We got a bunch of things going on IDP wise. Check out what Johnny, Axton, Joel, all the guys got going on there. If you're into betting and you want some action right now, check out the IDP Plus bets. We're talking UFL. Those games are happening right now. And hey, as a new channel, we appreciate any likes, comments, subscribes. Always, we're the injury guys as well. So if you got anybody that you are curious about or want to reach out about, just hit us up on X. He is at prof_lock2. I am at the DGen Doc over on X. So hit us up. We'd love to kind of talk ball and chat it up.
No doubt.
But other than that, I am the DGen Doc and he is Professor Locks. And from IDP Plus, we are out of here.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.